The campus bully hired me, the top student of our grade, to pose as his boyfriend, all to outshine the school heartthrob. I took the job for his absurd paycheck. He wanted me to help humiliate his sworn rival. And so, our bizarre relationship became public spectacle, the wild, short-tempered campus thug showing up at my classroom door daily to deliver affection like clockwork. When he got into fights, I stopped him. When he fumed with rage, I calmed him. When he pouted, I patted his head. The whole school watched in disbelief. A feral mad dog on a leash, wasn't this just the wicked old lady and her spoiled toy poodle? Main story. The school bully, Charles Malik, cornered me in a narrow alley, one hand braced against the wall, something dangling from his lips as he tried to look wild and untamed. At first, I thought he was going to beat me up. Instead, he suddenly said he wanted to hire me to be his girlfriend. Why me? I had my backpack on and my neck hunched down into the collar of my one and only padded coat. Because you're pretty. His expression was absolutely certain. When he took the thing out of his mouth to speak, I finally saw that it was a lollipop. Your grades are good, you're first in our grade, you can outscore that Lucas Jordan, and you're good looking. I'll hire you to date me and pay you for it. Oh. So outscoring Lucas was the main point. How much? He named a figure I had no way of refusing. Deal. Just like that, Charles openly became my boyfriend. He announced it to the world on the spot, not even sparing the stray dogs on campus. He practically wanted every living creature to know that I was his girlfriend. I admitted to this identity without so much as blushing or a skipped heartbeat. What could I do? He was paying way too much. I was in class 1, and Lucas was, too. One grade ranked first, the other second. Sharing a desk was only natural. It was just that. I glanced at what was spread out on our two desktops. One side was neat but shabby, the other was orderly and obviously expensive. That was the difference between Lucas and me. He came from a good family. And I had neither father nor mother. Charles swaggered past our classroom, craning his neck to peer in. The lackeys trailing behind him waved excitedly. Sister-in-law. 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 I thought for a moment. According to our contract, this was about the time I should respond. So I smiled and nodded at his lackey. If I wanted to go out, I had to step past Lucas. He was working on a test paper. Can you move for a second? Charles had said this was all to put Lucas beneath his heel. So, considerately, I added, my boyfriend's here to see me. Lucas's hand paused for a moment, then he silently moved aside. On the surface, Charles had come to bring his girlfriend some milk, but in reality he lowered his voice and asked me in a whisper, can you stay first in the next exam? I heard Lucas's parents got him some top-notch one-on-one tutoring. If you're not feeling confident, I can find someone for you too. Improving your grades isn't about one-on-one tutoring. I took the carton of milk from him. Talent isn't something extra lessons can give you. Charles gave me a big thumbs up. Badass. We didn't say much, but to create a romantic vibe we pretended to hang around together at the classroom door for a good 5 minutes. Plenty of people saw us, and it only made them more convinced by Charles's public announcement. The school forum was refreshing like crazy. Holy crap, Michelle Huber and Charles? Have those two ever even talked before? I've seen Charles loitering at Michelle's classroom door every couple of periods. I don't care how handsome he is, anyone lurking like that is terrifying. They're definitely dating, guaranteed. The guys who are always following Charles around all say so. Word is Michelle ran into a mugger on the road, Charles swooped in like a hero to save her, and they fell in love at first sight. I tapped open that comment and read it carefully. Then I asked Charles, genuinely puzzled, I ran into a mugger? Heroic rescue? It's to make our first encounter sound more dramatic, so the story is more romantic. Would a mugger be robbing my backpack full of test papers, or my padded coat with sleeves that are too short? We can add more details to the setting next time. He was very confident in his own imagination. Charles and Lucas. Born to clash. Both handsome, both from similar backgrounds. In school, people naturally favor those with good tempers and good grades a bit more. Because Lucas was ranked second in our grade, the title of school heartthrob fell on him. As for Charles, his temper was so awful that hardly anyone dared mess with him. He texted me. You absolutely cannot lose to Lucas. I replied, even if I beat him, no one's going to think that means you beat him. You're my girlfriend. You being first in the grade makes me look good. How about 10 grand if you get first place this time? I'll raise the stakes next time. I stared at those two words, 10 grand, for a long time. Then I picked up my pen and started doing practice problems. Until a girl by the window tapped on the glass. Hey, could you help me call Lucas? I didn't even lift my head, I just leaned forward a little so she could see Lucas sitting right beside me. Lucas stepped out. I knew she was probably his girlfriend. When he came back, he had a carton of milk and a bag of cookies in his hands. The cookies must have been freshly baked, their smell filled the room. Maybe that was one of the reasons Charles hired me to be his girlfriend. Because Lucas had won. That strange sense of competition. The next second, my phone buzzed violently. I heard his girl brought him snacks. Where's mine? I want some too. You can't let me lose to him. Gossip sure traveled fast. I calmly replied, I have no money. The next day, my entire underdesk space was crammed with food. From now on I'll keep you supplied every day. You pretend you bought it all for me. Of course, so I don't waste your time studying to beat Lucas, I can come get it myself. So that's how I ended up with a Charles who waited by the window every day. He would lounge there with half his body leaning inside, and I'd pass the stuff into his hands. Sigh, why are you so good to me? It's not like I'm going to starve. Honestly, making me come all the way up here to get it from you. He was one step away from holding a megaphone to Lucas's ear and shouting. I played along, it's because I worry about you. I didn't know how Lucas felt about it, but Charles was certainly delighted. Once I sat back down, the first thing Lucas said was, you don't have to do this. I turned my head and looked at him. I thought of the milk and cookies I'd seen in the trash can that morning. So he had two faces, then. Wasting food was truly shameful. I said, I like him. I love him. I acted like a little girl who'd fallen hopelessly in love. I'm going to fight the whole world for him. Don't you have a girlfriend? Don't you understand what that feels like? I thought you would. Lucas frowned. But I'm not going to make things convenient for your relationship. Stop going out to find him all the time, it really distracts me. I immediately protested, do you know how many times I've helped you out, Lucas? Love letters, gifts, passing messages, have you forgotten all of that? How come when it's my turn, suddenly it's not okay? Oh my God, Lucas, you're so ungrateful. If you keep this up, I'm not going to forgive you. Lucas's expression turned dark and unreadable. I gave him a quick sideways glance. And said nothing more. My acting today should have been pretty good, this money was as good as mine. I knew hanging around Charles would cause me a lot of trouble. But it didn't matter. In the face of money, those troubles were hardly worth mentioning. Our homeroom teacher hauled me into the office. The teachers at this school always looked at people with a kind of probing scrutiny that made your skin crawl. Everyone in the office pretended to be busy with their own thing, but all their ears were clearly pointed in my direction. Teacher, you don't have to break us up. I struck first. Homeroom teacher? I declared, every word firm and ringing, love is something that has no solution. Our homeroom teacher's face grew darker and darker. The most important thing for students right now is their studies. I'm first in the grade. Do you have any idea what the consequences of your behavior will be? I'm first in the grade. Get your parents in here. I'm first in the grade. Oh, you meant my parents. I smiled. Teacher, if you want to talk to my parents, you'll have to burn Joss paper and notify them in the afterlife. The person in front of me once told me that a wild child without parents is always hard to discipline. Clearly, he's forgotten that himself. There are so many people at this school who are dating, and you always pretend not to see them. You don't dare lay a finger on them, and yet you only ever come after me. Teacher, aside from this whole dating thing, you've criticized me countless times for every little thing, haven't you? For the sake of fairness, why don't you call Charles's parents in too? I was kicked out. I lowered my head, straightened my collar, and kept my composure. I could endure his scorn and his misunderstandings. But no one was going to sever my bond with money. My bold declarations only made the rumors spread faster and wilder. No one dared chirp in front of Charles, they were scared of him. But when it came to a special student like me, the ugly words somehow always found their way to my ears. So I demanded emotional damages from Charles. He didn't hesitate, he handed me the money, then spun around and went to drag out the source of the rumors and beat him into the ground. Charles's eyes curved as he looked down from above. You've got some nerve. Bro, I was just talking nonsense. I really didn't mean anything by it. Oh, great. Then I'm just beating you casually too. I also didn't mean anything by it. Charles was smiling, but the smile never reached his eyes. Lately he'd been standing too close to me, people kept forgetting that, at his core, he was not someone easy to get along with, he was a tyrant. When he was done fixing the guy, I quietly stepped out from the other side. Charles, let's go. Charles gave a cold snort and stepped on the guy on the ground. If this happens again, I'll kill you. Then he slung his jacket over his shoulder and walked off after me. Everyone present stared in horror at the two figures walking away together in the distance. He comes when she calls? He obeys the second she speaks? Charles listens to Michelle that much? Michelle looks all quiet and well-behaved, but who would have thought she has some secret kink for keeping a vicious dog? In reality, the conversation between the two of us went like this. Charles poked disdainfully at the jacket I'd just thrown on. So damn lame. What are you even wearing? Too warm to be cool, too thin to be warm. I'll go buy you a couple of new ones. No, thanks. Hands in my pockets. Face full of indifference. If I wear that, in 2 days people will say I'm being kept. Pot calling kettle black. With his tacky mud of an aesthetic, if I said yes, in a few days he'd be stuffing me into some jacket covered in giant logo prints. Charles frowned. That's just their jealousy after being poor so long they hallucinate. Maintaining a deep, meaningful conversation with Charles was hard work. Because he never wanted to hear what was between the lines, only what he liked hearing. Honestly, you don't have to care what people say about you today. None of that matters. You're just waiting for a chance to ask me for emotional damages again, aren't you? He'd caught me, so I twisted my words a little. Of course, when it comes to personal reputation, we can't just ignore it. Charles snorted twice. Now that you're publicly my girlfriend, anyone who talks shit about you is slapping me in the face. Your face is easy to hit, but if they so much as brush mine, I'll beat them to death. Having said that, he turned to me for praise. Moved yet? I didn't dare move. To be fair, this was the same guy who cornered people in alleys, he could still be pretty terrifying. I coughed twice. And said goodbye to Charles. With the money buff stacked on me, the usual 5 or 6 point gap between Lucas and me suddenly stretched to more than 10. The day we got our grades back, Charles was even happier than I was. He leaned against my window, holding my score report and flipping it back and forth. Hey, Lucas, how'd you think this score happened? How could this be, huh? How is there still this much room for improvement? Ha ha ha, I wouldn't know, seeing as my girlfriend is just that amazing. Some people get one-on-one tutoring and still don't get anything, unlike my girlfriend, born genius, right, Lucas? Lucas's face was cold, his lips pressed in a perfectly straight line, and he didn't say a word. He had, in fact, been working very hard. But no matter how hard he tried, he still dimmed under my halo. I lay on my desk, half squinting, my head swimming. I was sick. The day I went out to find Charles, my jacket hadn't kept the wind out. 2 days later, I went down. I forced myself through the exam anyway. In my head, we should have widened the gap to at least 20 points. Charles quickly noticed something was wrong and hurried over to feel my forehead. Shit, you're burning up. Michelle, you've got a fever and didn't say a word. Charles frowned and lowered his voice. Do you have a death wish? He rushed off, I had no idea where he was going. I drifted in and out. Something cool seemed to press against my forehead. Before I could even wonder where that touch of coolness came from, Charles's extremely distinctive voice was already crackling in my ears. Lucas, you son of a, get your filthy hands off Michelle's head. Then came another burst of chaos. So noisy. I found a comfortable position and fell asleep. When I woke up, Lucas was nowhere to be seen. Charles was gone too. A classmate seized the chance to come over eagerly and handed me a paper cup. Medicine. Charles just went to get it. Thanks. I took it. Charles and Lucas got into a fight. I sprayed the medicine in one violent cough. She hurriedly patted my back. But don't worry, Charles held back. He didn't pin him to the ground and pound him, and Lucas was careful too, he protected his face. I stood downstairs scolding Charles. What earth-shattering grudge do you and Lucas have that you had to start swinging now? Ever heard that small impatience ruins big plans? If you want to crush him, you've got to keep at it. Don't just throw punches whenever you feel like it. Once you hit him, the nature of this changes. He put his hand on your forehead. Okay, I know, he touched my forehead. But when something like that happens, you can't just rush in on impulse. You need to talk to me first before you do anything, got it? I just don't like him putting his hand on your head. Charles pouted, sounding full of righteous conviction. What if he's using some shady method to steal your genius? He actually used a word like steal, so cultured. He must have really been angry. I softened my tone. Alright, fine. Next time you're not allowed to. You still have to coddle the client. Now he was sulking. When we got back, I went right back to doing practice problems. You don't have anything you want to say to me? I had actually been a little guilty. Even if Charles and I were just in a partnership, he was still my client, and this whole thing did have something to do with me. But then I turned my head and saw Lucas's eternally expressionless face. Don't try to wring money out of me. I don't have any to pay you. Lucas choked. After a moment, he adjusted his tone. You should break up with Charles. You two aren't right for each other. He said it very calmly, like he was issuing a notice. I set my pen down. And looked at him coldly. Lucas, you already have a girlfriend, and now you want to steal someone else's boyfriend too. Lucas. You can forget it. I am absolutely never leaving Charles, and Charles will absolutely never betray me. He could forget it too. I was absolutely never leaving my client. The sky is high, the earth is wide, but money is higher still. Lucas's face turned unnaturally pale. You're that sure he won't betray you? How's he supposed to betray me? Unless he refuses to pay the final installment. That won't fly. Whatever happens, I'm not betraying him unless he betrays me first. I locked eyes with Lucas. He pressed his lips together, who knows what he was thinking. I swear, I never expected Lucas to suddenly act like Charles had knocked open some blocked meridian in his brain that day. Before, he'd always had this natural wariness towards me. Now that I was with Charles, that layer of natural guard was gone. I didn't understand people like that. I told him, you have a girlfriend. Can you watch yourself a little? My boyfriend and I have a great relationship. What you're doing is wrong. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Compared to staying near this Lucas who'd been body snatched, at this point, the purely transactional Charles had actually become my only shield. I don't have a girlfriend. Who'd believe that? I've never said yes to anyone's confession. I was shocked. So you were just casting a wide net? Lucas lowered his eyes. Maybe there were a lot of misunderstandings before. I just hope we can go back to how we used to be. Lucas. Charles's voice floated in from the window, dark and cold, cutting him off. Go back to what, exactly? If you've got something to say, why don't you try saying it to me? I've got plenty of time. I can listen to your inner feelings, how about that? I had never found Charles's voice so pleasant. Charles's tone turned sinister. If you dare mess with Michelle's studies, I'll beat you into a red beef meatball. Don't think I don't know you're jealous of her being first in the grade and this is the best you can do, cheap little tricks. Did you forget I'm her boyfriend, or are you really that keen on wedging yourself into someone else's relationship? I was genuinely moved. I decided that next time I'd score 25 points higher than Lucas. That would really piss this 25 off. Later, Charles asked me privately, you and Lucas knew each other before, didn't you? Once our equal footing money relationship was back in place, I instantly changed my expression. That's not something I'm obligated to disclose. You definitely knew each other. He frowned, looking more and more certain the longer he thought about it. Otherwise he wouldn't be sneaking looks at you every day. Charles gave a cold little laugh. And the way he looks at you, he's always on the verge of saying something but never does. It's disgusting. Who knew he'd actually be trying to hit on someone else's girlfriend? So cheap and shameless, those are the only pathetic tricks he's got. He was actually very good at analysis. Charles had a solid foundation in soap opera morality. What's with that look? Did I say something weird? I'm serious. Stay away from him. I've known Lucas since we were kids. From head to toe, there is nothing good about that guy. Who would have thought such a simple mind could spin such elaborate theories? Charles was faintly flushed and heated. He was upset. If he was upset, then my equal footing money relationship was in danger. It wasn't time for that yet, I still had more to earn. So I soothed him. Don't worry, I'll definitely save your face. Lucas is nothing but my stepping stone as first in the grade, Michelle's little footstool. Charles snorted twice and cheered up again. I hadn't told the truth. In fact, my history with Lucas ran pretty deep. When I got back to the classroom, Lucas said he wanted to talk to me. I refused. The next second, someone came to the door and called me out, saying someone was looking for me. That girl knew about my relationship with Charles. She looked nervous and whispered, I think it's Charles's mom. Oh. The client's client. I actually thought it was kind of novel that getting summoned by mom could happen to me a second time. Charles's mother was a very elegant woman. She was taking small, refined sips of coffee. Her brows and eyes were sharp, she looked every bit the formidable type. When Charles came flying downstairs and rushed over, what he saw was his mother holding on to me. Mom, don't make things hard for her, it's all my fault, wait. His mom let go of my hand and stood up, not sparing her own son even a glance. That's all Auntie wanted to say to you. I said, all right, Auntie. With brisk efficiency, she slung her bag over her shoulder and left. Charles looked stuck between breaths, practically with question marks popping over his head. I summarized for him, Auntie said it's shocking that a zero brain like you actually turned over a new leaf and started hanging around with a top student like me, and she hopes I stay on high alert and don't let you drag down my first place in the grade. A real mom, through and through. Charles still apologized to me, saying he had absolutely no idea she was coming. Which meant someone had tattled. You could figure out who it was with your feet. I was afraid Charles might accidentally beat Lucas to death, so I didn't say anything, I just went back to my seat. I shot a glance at Lucas. Cutting off someone's income is like murdering their parents. He'd already taken a step in that direction. If he wanted to cut off my income, then my parents, whom I'd never even met, had basically been offed by Lucas on the side. He was a murderer. I didn't let Charles down, I nailed Lucas firmly to his second-place ranking. Before, there were always teachers who kindly comforted Lucas, saying that boys are supposed to be quicker than girls, that Lucas's brain just hadn't fully kicked in yet, and that he only lost first place because he wrote too fast and too casually in the exam and didn't check carefully. That was really pitiful. Almost 3 years had passed. And his brain still hadn't fully developed. I doubted it was a human brain. This time, there was still a teacher gently analyzing his problems for him, kindly telling him that he could definitely surpass me next time. I understood her. In a school like this, everyone was either rich or powerful, snobs were everywhere. Compared to having a study chat with someone like me, it was much more worth it to talk life opportunities with someone like Lucas. But she forgot that Charles popped up at the window at random. Teacher. Charles beamed. When is next time supposed to be? In 10 years? 20? Or do we have to wait until everyone's in their graves and Lucas is the first one to reincarnate so he can finally get first place? That teacher's face turned green, then white, and she didn't dare lose her temper at Charles. She could only glare at me. Why glare at me? It's not like I stopped him from getting first place. Charles's expression sank. Just because Michelle has a good temper doesn't mean I do. Is this how you people usually talk to her? The teacher didn't dare say another word and slunk away resentfully. I was a little jealous. So this was the power of money and influence. Enough to make a snob back down. I turned to Lucas with great friendliness and said, "Work hard on developing that brain of yours. I believe you're just letting me have those 25 points on purpose." You little 25. Lucas pressed his lips together. His usually indifferent expression showed faint signs of cracking. Huh. He was finally tilted. Plenty of people couldn't stand me. In this year group, a person with unbeatable grades, striking looks, and a half-finished shell of a home life was bound to attract all kinds of gossip. Of course, in a normal school I'd be nestled in the teacher's palms, called a study god by my classmates. But don't forget. This school was built on background. Isolation is a very delicate word. People use tiny bits of malice, gathered together, to slowly eat away at a person. And then Charles jumped in. He swept his gaze around, frowning with a very emperor-like air, and issued his critique. Don't hang out with them. Don't even talk to them. I'm afraid they'll drag down your IQ and mess with your first place. Charles felt that a genius brain like mine couldn't be contaminated by idiots. He had to protect my brain. So in reverse, he led the charge in isolating me from everyone else. Some people refused to believe it and had to try their luck. 3 guys cornered me on the road. They raked their eyes over me with sleazy interest. Not bad. I heard you're some kind of top student in the grade. Ha 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 ha, textbook drama setup. Girls like you don't come to our school unless you're here to hook some rich husband. Today I'm gonna see what it feels like to play with the top student, maybe we'll take you to a club. Disgusting. I stared calmly at my toes. They were thrown off by how composed I was and started fantasizing that maybe I secretly enjoyed stuff like this. I said, 7th, 8th, 9th. They frowned. What 7, 8, 9? The next second, Charles appeared at the mouth of the alley with a stick in his hand. There was a chilling smile on his face. Like a ghost. The stick scraped along the ground with a harsh, grating sound. The lackeys behind him rushed them first, locking arms around their necks, cursing them out while kicking and stomping between their legs. Fuck you, brains growing out of your balls or what, talking like that to Sister Michelle. Amid a chorus of howls, Charles's face stayed blank as he swung the stick. I thought the arc of his swing was beautiful, almost a perfect circle, cutting through the air with a sharp whoosh. If this were an exam question, how could you phrase it? I pondered that on my own. A sliver of afterglow fell across the mouth of the alley, dusted with a faint golden shimmer. So beautiful. How did you deal with people like that before? Charles walked behind me, never straying too far. I snorted, a bit smug. Run, obviously. Most of them don't know the routes around here. Only I have to wind through 7 or 8 turns to get back to that old urban village. Of course they can't catch me. So awesome. Charles praised me as he followed along, who knows what he was thinking. After a stretch of silence, I was almost home. I'm sorry. Charles suddenly spoke. I froze. He lowered his eyes, his face didn't have its usual lazy air. I can't imagine how scared you must have been when I cornered you on the road back then. Even if his intention hadn't been bad. I blanked for a moment, then caught up. It's over now. And I got plenty of benefits out of it that I like very much. Charles drew in a deep breath, his expression ugly. I can't stand it. I should just go back and beat them to death. From that day on, my relationship with Charles gained another layer. He insisted I move out of that place, found me a new apartment, and insisted on walking me home every day. No matter how I tried, he wouldn't be persuaded otherwise. No way. Charles was deadly serious. I can't let you be on your own. Your first-place brain can't be exposed to any random danger. I'd apparently become some rare protected species. Lucas soon noticed too. When did you move? His voice was a little dry. I casually made something up. Oh, I felt like that place was haunted, so I moved. Lucas said, I went to look for you there and couldn't find you. I nearly jumped. So there really was a ghost. Good thing I moved early. I refused all attempts at friendly communication with Lucas. Back when his mother came to me and humiliated me in public, whatever little scraps of friendship Lucas and I had left were completely shattered. He seemed to be in pain, those always indifferent eyes of his held something that could almost be called bitterness. But I was the one who knew you first, Every alarm bell in my head went off, and I screamed for Charles internally. Knew me how, exactly? And speak of the devil, Charles appeared. The smile at the corners of Charles's mouth faded a little. Lucas narrowed his eyes. Yeah. I've known her for a long time. Didn't she tell you? A long time, long enough that I've made up a third of her life so far. I stared at Lucas in disbelief. What kind of episode was this idiot having? Right before Charles's fist crashed into Lucas's face, I shouted for a timeout. Charles. Charles stopped obediently. Amid a sea of eyes that wanted to watch but didn't dare, shock couldn't be hidden. One word from me and he stops? Charles stood by my side, tall, straight, quiet, obedient, making it seem like the earlier scene had been an illusion. I mouthed some calming words at him. Charles turned his head away in sullen reluctance. Then I looked at Lucas. I'm begging you, stop losing your mind, you're scaring me, I really can't deal with this anymore. Please stop making my life difficult. I'm just a girl whose only talent is getting first place and beating you by 25 points. If you keep this up, I really will call the police. Lucas lowered his head. His mental state didn't look any better than before. On the surface, I was spouting nonsense at Lucas. In essence, I was still a very petty, mean, vengeful, and evil person. Because next time I immediately scored 38 points higher than Lucas and gave him a new nickname, 38. The school forum had a detailed record of my villainous deeds. For example, how I handled exams, because in everyone else's eyes, those disgusting tests behaved like docile kittens under my pen. Ha ha ha. Did I want good grades? It was more that I had zero entertainment in my life and could only treat studying as my leisure activity, and happened to be gifted, so the throne of first place naturally landed on my head. I hated rich people. Someone else wrote that I was always taking notes. At the time, they thought I was writing down some kind of super important study notes. So they borrowed the notebook, planning to learn from it. Who knew that when they opened it, it was all year X, month X, day X, so-and-so did such and such place and made me very unhappy. A full 100 pages. The instant they opened it, a suffocating black cloud seemed to roll out, like some terrifying death note. They said, Michelle walked over very calmly and told me I'd taken the wrong notebook, then handed me her actual study notes. Was she warning me? Don't you think that's creepy? How did she even get into our school? Holy shit, the more I think about it the scarier it gets, and it's scary even if you don't think too hard. OP, you'd better be careful for a while. I feel like you're very likely to die of talking too much. Ah, so scary, especially after she started dating that Charles, the vibe got even weirder. The two of them are always hiding in some corner laughing like lunatics. Maybe all geniuses have a flaw somewhere. Like, Michelle might just be a pretty psycho. After reading that thread, I suddenly understood. Maybe the strange way a lot of people looked at me wasn't about isolating me. They were scared of me. I was like, huh? I studied my face in the mirror carefully. Gentle and kind, cute and obedient, not an ounce of aggression. But the forum described me like this, her face is way too pale, but she's really pretty, so she looks kinda ghostly. In truth, I just didn't like standing in the sun, and on top of that I'd been too poor to eat properly for a long time. So my complexion was always bad. When she smiles at me, my heart skips a beat. Not from love, from cardiac arrest. I don't know why, I'm just terrified. Please don't smile at me, I'm scared. Even my basic friendliness, my smile was getting misinterpreted. It felt like the sky was falling. This was my carefully curated, beautiful persona. So the idiots who cornered me were actually pure idiots. Anyone who wasn't an idiot would overanalyze and keep their distance instead. As for my relationship with Charles, the forum had plenty to say too. Is Charles Michelle's dog or what? How come whatever Michelle says goes? Michelle looks so quiet, but who knew she's totally the one holding the leash? Women who look honest are the scariest when it comes to handling their dogs. Wait, a mad dog on a chain, this is literally the wicked old lady and her curly-haired toy poodle, isn't it? So harsh. But it was fine. Some people said that me dating Charles was basically collusion between two villains. One did mental damage, the other physical. Like when we messed with those idiots who'd cornered me and then someone walked in on us cackling in a corner afterward. The passing students were like, oh my god. They detoured in horror and went the long way around. Calling it a petty villain's triumph might sound ugly. But calling it Michelle's triumph made it kind of cute. Charles squatted in front of me, finally stopping his laughter, and quietly watched me for a while as I laughed so hard there were tears in my eyes. Michelle, I like you. I couldn't laugh anymore. We're not a good match. Hands in my pockets, I walked ahead of him. We're perfect for each other. Charles followed close behind, trying to convince me. Because when your mom shows up again and offers me $5 million to leave you, I will unhesitatingly choose the bank card and block you. Then I'll give you $10 million. I stopped walking. Charles immediately lowered his head, looking up at me with pleading eyes. I set my hand on his forehead. His face turned red and his gaze skittered away. What are you doing? No fever? You look like you've got one. I hummed thoughtfully. Charles was very good at playing the fool. He refused to give up. Michelle, look at me. My grades might not be great, but I don't look that bad, right? And I've got money, I have. My grades are bad. Charles looked like he'd just been struck by lightning. After that, Charles stopped coming to me. Some observant people noticed something was off. They thought Charles and I had fought and broken up. Of course they were delighted. They still remembered how many people Charles had beaten up back then over this whole thing. Now the wicked old lady and her curly toy poodle had finally split. Then somebody said to Charles, I heard Michelle's going to represent our school in an exchange program at another school. Charles said with a cold face, that's her own ability. The moment they saw his expression, they knew they'd hit pay dirt. Charles and Michelle were definitely on the rocks. Sigh, Brother Malik, if you ask me, that Michelle is just a pretty face. She's that poor, she's only good for messing around with, you know? The next second, Charles kicked him so hard he flew a good 2 meters. Charles looked down at him from above. Are you suicidal? The guy panicked. Huh? What? Bro, aren't you two broken up? Who's your bro? Charles squatted down with a smile. He patted the guy on the head. If you dare say one more thing I don't like, I'll have you kicked out of this school. Who the hell told you we broke up? She can dump me if she wants, but what right does your cheap mouth have to talk? You'd better stay out of my sight for a while. I've got my eye on you, you mutt. Just then, Lucas happened to walk by. Charles was in a very, very bad mood. And you, Lucas? Lucas stopped. Charles said lazily, I really hate homewreckers. Anyone who willingly stoops so low to be the third party doesn't end well. Dating one person while trying to seduce someone else's, do you have any idea how many crimes you've committed? You'd be lined up for execution. The onlookers, It sounded like they'd just heard something explosive. Lucas gave a soft, derisive laugh. Homewrecker? Don't flatter yourself. Michelle's life was never going to include you. And I don't exactly have a so-called girlfriend. Did you ask my permission before slandering me, idiot? Slander you? Charles arched a brow. Then go ahead and sue me. I'd love to see if it counts as slander, you cheap little bitch. Lucas had always been the model student, the flawless representative, clean, pure, cold. And now the two of them were going off like someone lit a string of firecrackers? Things spiraled. Former childhood friends turned mortal enemies, what for? Today's campus news brings you live coverage. I had just gotten back to school. A few students from the other school trailed behind me. As always, I stuck to my usual style, modest, polite, gentle, and well-behaved to the point of death. Just follow me. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask. As we walked, something started to feel wrong. Up ahead, lots of people were hiding behind trees and bushes, a few had even climbed up into the branches. Everyone was craning their necks, clearly wanting to get closer but too scared, so they were relying entirely on eye power. Until a voice, so furious it sounded like a crashing wave, suddenly slammed into my ears. You fucking homewrecker. I was like, oh. In that instant, it was like the back of my brain went blank, all the wrinkles smoothed out. The exchange students behind me went from stunned to flushed, and in each of their eyes was the most basic human instinct, curiosity. I quickly blocked their line of sight. Let's head over to that teaching building first. Right then, someone with sharp eyes spotted me. They sprinted toward me. It's bad, Michelle. Charles and Lucas are fighting over who's the homewrecker. Did you and Charles break up? Who's the real homewrecker, Michelle, say something. Go stop them before they start throwing punches again. He rattled all of that off in one breath. The exchange students' dazed gazes all landed on my face. Then they said, one after another, we understand, we understand. Michelle, go take care of your stuff, we'll just wander around. I turned my head. Both of them were right there. Under a barrage of scorching stares, I somehow managed to drag the two of them off to a quieter spot to talk. Charles's hair was slightly mussed, but his eyes were blazing. Michelle, tell him, did we break up? Lucas stood a short distance away, his face pale. You and he were never real to begin with, were you? Charles took a step forward, blocking the space between Lucas and me. Whatever goes on between her and me is none of your business. None of my business? Lucas gave a humorless laugh. Charles, how much do you actually know about her? Do you know why she always wears that old padded coat in winter? Do you know why she studies like her life depends on it? You know nothing. I know she's cold. Charles took off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. I know what she needs, so I give it to her. I know when someone bullies her, I protect her. What about you? Other than acting all high and mighty on the sidelines, what have you ever done? Lucas was struck speechless. Watching this ridiculous drama unfold, I suddenly felt tired. This play had gone on so long that even I could barely tell what was real anymore. Extra, extra. Michelle just walked off with Charles. Lucas is left standing there all alone. Why does Michelle even like Charles? I still think shipping number 1 and number 2 is better. I dunno, maybe good students just like bad boys. From afar he looked like bristling fur, up close he was a straight-up lit powder keg. No matter how much Charles explained or tried to hide it, he couldn't cover up his dynamite nature. I decided it was time to temporarily dissolve our partnership. Having a client fall in love with you is really bad for one's professional reputation. Charles very deftly dodged the topic, saying he planned to work his way up to a score of 600 first and that I shouldn't bring it up yet. I thought he'd lost his mind. Then he took out a sum of money bigger than anything I'd ever seen in my life. I immediately felt he had great potential. Well, putting it another way, I changed tack. When it comes to studying, it's never too late to start. Maybe I'd studied myself into madness. Or maybe I'd mistaken the pain in my chest from pure rage for the fluttering of my heart. Otherwise, why was it that when I saw Charles, my first thought wasn't idiot but good-looking? Charles squatted obediently beside me, opening his mouth and closing it again. Don't be mad. Then why did you get 9 out of 10 problems wrong? I rapped him on the head. Explain it again, he said, rubbing his forehead with a grin. I'm dumb. I'll admit it. He really was trying hard. He'd even hired a private tutor just for himself. Then he dragged me over to sit in on his lessons. I liked that kind of one-on-one. While he was in class, I got to sponge off it for free. Well, putting it another way, it wasn't bad at all. Lucas watched us grow closer and closer, like his soul had left his body. Are you two really that close? But once, you and I. Always with the once. I didn't know if he was trying to get under my skin or Charles's, but Charles definitely looked like he was enjoying it. I didn't understand. Once, for both of us, was a very sorry sight. Sure, memories can soften the pain in them. But that doesn't mean I forget. I'm first in the grade, my brain is exceptional, and I remember every detail clearly. The day Lucas nearly drowned on that camping trip, there was no one beside him. The rest of the Jordan family had gone off to do something else. It was me who pulled him out of the water. From then on, I was the one who owed the Jordan family a favor and got placed in his school. But at the same time, didn't they also owe me a life? I gently crushed his fantasy. Lucas, if you're asking whether I regret saving you after getting to live it all over again, no, I don't. Because from the very beginning, I approached that day with the intention of saving you. I'd gambled on that 1 in 10,000 chance. My face was blank. Maybe the river would rise. Maybe your leg would cramp. I was crouched behind a tree waiting, just for that one moment. Lucas froze, his face suddenly empty of expression. It hadn't been some simple coincidence. I'd just noticed his expensive shoes. And the Bentley parked 50 meters away. I chose to take a chance. I'd prepared thoroughly. In that single instant, when I saw Lucas choke on water and his head disappear beneath the surface, the icy river stopped feeling cold. That was my chance to change my fate. I admit it, I used Lucas. But I did what needed to be done. I saved his life, and almost threw in half of my own in the process. All of this, I earned. Studying changes your fate, sure. But only if you actually get the chance to study. So, to thank me for saving their son, the Jordan family sent me to study at the same school as Lucas. Lucas was stubborn. But you still saved me. Yes, I nodded. I saved you. You repaid me by sending me to a school I never wanted to attend, insisting it was some enormous blessing. No matter how I refused, no matter how much I begged to go to an ordinary school and just get enough money to live on, it didn't matter. You treated my act of saving your life like it was some kind of crime against your family. Was dumping me into that hellhole your grand act of grace, so that no matter how much you people humiliated me after, it was all something I owed you. No, that's not. Stop with the "it's not like that." When you look down on someone, your face is very expressive. Maybe you feel a twinge of guilt, but it doesn't stop the contempt that's in your bones. I smiled. Oh, I remember when we were getting along pretty well and, for once, I could finally breathe a little easier in that suffocating environment. That's when your mom barged into the school and shouted that someone of my low status didn't deserve to be here. Did she forget who put me here? What, is your family some kind of higher caste now? Likewise, I look down on you now. I saved your life, you people repaid me, and we're even. But I will always despise you and your idiot parents. Back when we were on the best terms, when I could finally relax just a little under all that pressure, his mother handed me that lovely little gift. After that, I kept my head down and did nothing but study. Only endless studying could briefly pull me away from the pain. Take me and Lucas, for instance. It looked like we were close, like we told each other everything. But at certain times, others would come looking for Lucas. I never understood what they were talking about. People with sensitive minds are the first to sense that kind of subtle malice. This isn't me bragging. I'm just saying, their condescension was impossible to hide. I was awkwardly stuck in this in-between place, neither here nor there. On stormy nights after school, I'd grip my umbrella and watch them one by one climb into their warm luxury cars. Smiling faces at the windows, tinged with pity, looking out at me. Then, as they drove off, they'd splash muddy water all over me. Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. So, Lucas, I find you absolutely revolting. Do you understand now? The night before the college entrance exam, Charles texted me, nervous. I replied, a rock-solid number 1 in the grade doesn't even know how to spell nervous. When the results came out, I was still the top science scorer in the province. Charles's score was decent enough. Barely enough to stay in the city I wanted to go to. After graduation, Charles and I got together. I vaguely remember, it was one dark, windy night. Charles clung to my leg, crying, saying that now I was going to a good university, my life was about to take off, and I'd never look at him again. I thought about it and realized he had a point. Obviously, I had to kick all these eyesores and hindrances out of my life in one go. Then Charles wiped his tears, suddenly very calm, and took out a bank card. 10 million. Be with me. You think any amount of money can move me? He added another card. We're fundamentally impossible. He added another. Well, putting it another way. Charles and I were brought together by a happy accident. Fate is something worth catching when it passes by. Later on, Charles stuck to me like a piece of dogskin plaster, and I never had the chance or the excuse to break up with him. Our feelings only grew stronger. Morning, 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 stop saying, good morning. When you wake up you should say, hubby, I love you. Don't be gross. I pushed his head away as he tried to lean in, and finished a phone call. Who was it? Charles was unhappy, sticking to me like glue. After a while, he suddenly went on alert like a dog smelling a bone, his eyes sharp and clear. Lucas? I nodded. Charles jerked his head up, and I pushed it back down. I'm gonna kill him right now. I'll plant him in the Sahara Desert as a cactus. I put a finger to my lips. Charles lowered his voice, but not the hatred in it. That bastard, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. Be good. Charles looked incredibly wronged. I patted his head. Lucas only called once in a while to ask how I was doing. Blocking number after number never worked for long. I remember on the day we filled in our university applications, Lucas came to find me. I'm going abroad. Oh. He looked at me, like there was more he wanted to say, but in the end he just murmured, back then, I'm sorry. I nodded and accepted his apology. Some scars never disappear, but they do eventually scab over. But if he wanted to stick to me like plaster now, it was too late. Where was he back then? It's only you for me, okay? Be good. Charles's eyes lit up. If he'd had a physical tail, it would have been wagging wildly. Don't act all cutesy. His invisible tail wagged even harder. He'd originally planned to go abroad, but in the end Charles stayed and went through university in the country with me. Then we went overseas together. I hadn't really wanted to go abroad. He cried and told me my heart was too cold. Little dog. I ruffled his hair. As we walked farther and farther along this road called life, things kept changing. After we came back to the country, we got engaged. I saw Lucas at our engagement banquet. At some business event, we happened to run into the newly returned Lucas. He raised his glass to me. Charles immediately took my hand, fingers intertwining. On the way home, Charles suddenly said, actually, I know you genuinely wanted to help me back then. How do you know? The way you look at exam questions, he chuckled, is exactly the same as the way you look at me. See? I told you he was great at making things up. When I looked at the questions, what I really wanted was to line them up and shoot them. Back then I was just so mad my heartbeat went off rhythm and I mistook it for falling in love. Forget it.